The search for the lost eighth continent has awakened the imagination of various explorers. Since the Dutch adventurer Abel Tasman, who searched for the lost southern continent in 1642. In his search, he discovered an entirely new group of islands that we now call New Zealand. However, this landmass he found did not correspond to the size of the continent. By the way, the Australian island of Tasmania was named after this researcher. Later, in 1895, the Scottish scientist Sir James Hector visited a series of islands near the southern part of New Zealand and concluded with his research work that New Zealand was part of a larger landmass. Through geological research, he determined that New Zealand was actually a remnant mountain range that formed the ridge of a large continental area that stretched far to the south and east. The said landmass could not be discovered because it is underwater. The name Zealandia was given by the American geophysicist Bruce Luyendijk in 1995 and defined that underwater region with New Zealand at its center as a continent. It wasn't until 2017 that modern scientific geological research determined that Zealandia is really a continent through detailed recording and research of the seabed. Land and sea reconnaissance geological mapping established that the size of this underwater continent is 5 million square kilometers, or 1.9305 million square miles. Zealandia was formed by the separation of the supercontinent Gondwana, which broke up into several continents several 100 million years ago. You must be wondering why scientists consider this large underwater landmass to be a continent. We will try to find out why this is so from the scientific research work. A specialized team of geologists and seismologists analyzed samples of excavated rock and sediment collected by perforating the ocean floor, including samples found on the shores of islands in this region. They analyzed and dated basalt and sandstone rocks from pebbly to cobblestone. The results of the analysis showed that the sandstones originate from the late Cretaceous epoch, some 95 million years ago, which contained granite pebbles and volcanic gravel from the early Cretaceous, some 130 to 110 million years ago. The basalts themselves have been dated to the Eocene epoch of some 40 million years ago. This dating of the supposed landmass of Zealandia and the analysis of magnetic anomalies allowed scientific researchers to map the large geographic units that made up the entire underwater landmass. This unit is separated from the oceanic crust and extends only 20 kilometers or 12 miles in depth, so it was easy prey for the merciless ocean. Although the parameter for the terrestrial crust is 40 kilometers or 24 miles deep and is visibly thicker than the oceanic crust, which is usually about 10 kilometers or 6 miles deep, this unit, which has been named Zealandia, meets the criteria to become the 8th separate continent. What was Lemuria, of course, if it even existed? And where did the idea for this lost land come from? 19th century theorists sought an answer to explain the distribution of animal species and the great similarity of rock formations on different continents. Before the formation of the theory of the existence of tectonic plates and the movement of continents, scientists interpreted the similarities between continents separated by water formations with the theory of submerged land bridges and continents. In 1864, zoologist and biogeographer Philip Sclater called these animals lemurs in his work, Mammals of Madagascar, based on the primate fossils he found in Madagascar and India. And based on this, he proposed the existence of the landmass of Lemuria. In which these two continents were joined. However, theories about the southern continent originated even before this scientific work. As mentioned, to explain the similarities in different land masses separated by seas and oceans, scientists have created hypotheses about a submerged southern continent. His alleged destination varied from Sclater's idea that in the Indian Ocean to the southern continent, or Lemuria being in the Pacific Ocean. While serving in India in 1868, Colonel of the British Army, James Churchward, discovered in a temple a collection of tablets of the mysterious Nakul people who moved from the east and settled in Burma. These tablets tell the story of a continent that existed in the Pacific 50,000 years ago, and, about 12,000 years ago, disappeared with its 64 million inhabitants in a great cataclysm. This continent was called Mu and was the cradle of the white race. This story had a lot of influence on the theory of the Aryan race. Helena Blavatsky, a Russian-American mystic, spiritualist, occultist, and one of the founders of the Theosophical Society in 1875, reveals what those ancient people looked like, if they were people at all. She claims that the inhabitants of the Mu continent were about 8 meters or 26 feet tall, and due to the specific structure of their feet, these beings could walk not only forwards, but also backwards. They had 3 eyes, 2 on the front like humans, and 1 on the back of the head. Telepathy was the basic type of their mutual communication. They never got sick and lived a long life. Edgar Cayce, an American medium and psychic who was already mentioned on the channel, received messages from extraterrestrial intelligence, according to whose data the destruction of the Mu continent originated from a nuclear war between the inhabitants of this continent and Atlantis, which was located in the Atlantic. according to the reports of the mentioned people who came to know about this continent in different ways, which scientists discovered only in the last decades. Its disappearance must have happened in some kind of catastrophe. But whether it was a nuclear war, a flood, or something else entirely, is currently hidden in the depths of the sea.